Unfortunately, the grip of footage I got from Creative Assembly a while back did not include any Nurgle or Slanesh, or Kislev for that matter, so I won't be able to show you guys any gameplay of them, but what I can show you is some more gameplay of CATHAY versus TZEENTCH. Today we'll be having a land battle between them. Of course, typical caveats, the game is still a work in progress, this footage is not final, especially unit balancing and so forth. In this battle as well, you'll see some extremely bright artillery targeting markers that are definitely have probably already been fixed, to be honest. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the footage without further ado. You'll notice right off the bat, we're going to see a unit that we actually haven't got to see yet live in battle. That is the Woojing War Compass. We can see here, I thought this thing might be actual chariot speed, but it looks like instead it's more infantry speed. It does have 160 weapon strength, no armor piercing damage, but only 20 charge bonus, so it doesn't seem like it's actually a functional chariot. But you see there the abilities Uranus Thunderbolt and I believe Comet of Cassandora. Both castable at a very long range. As you'll see in battle, these are actual spells, so like we saw with the Lord of Change for TZEENTCH, the Woojing War Compass does appear to be a spellcaster as a unit. What this means for, say, Sisters of Thorn or Doomfire Warlocks, for example, I'm not really sure. It'd be interesting to see those units have an actual casting ability get implemented. But anyway, let's move on. The rest of the army here, we've got Miao Ying leading the way. Two Terracotta Sentinels. We've got a Sky Junk, 2 units of rockets, 3 Celestial Dragon Guard, a couple of Crane Guns, a couple of Jade Warriors with Halberds, 3 Jade Warriors with Swords and Shields, and 3 Jade Warrior Crossbowmen. So a pretty nice balanced force. Again, no Cathayan Cavalry, which we, there's only the 1 unit of on the ground, and then, I guess there's the 2 units, right? Light Cavalry, and then the flying Jade Long Cavalry, which I would have liked to have seen in battle, but that's okay. Double Sentinels, pretty good. That's going to be quite strong. Those units do seem to be pretty powerful. The forces of TZEENTCH arrayed there in the distance. Nice defensive, not full-on defensive Dwarven geometry, but in a similar vein. You see the yin and yang effects pop up. One thing a lot of people have let's say, given feedback about, and I do tend to agree, is the sort of sparkling effect on the TZEENTCHian banners, denoting that they have the barrier active. I think is, first of all, it's unnecessary. You can see pretty clearly if you have the health bars up that they have the barrier active, and I also think that you could make a much more toned down effect to denote if they still wanted to have something to show that the barrier was currently active. I mean, it almost like obscures the banners to the point where you can't see, right? And I think enough people have given that feedback that I would expect them to change it. But you see how quickly the barriers go down to the rockets. Pretty much all of those infantry units the knights and everything have their barriers broken. We do have a iridescent horror there on the burning chariot, along with some dew knights there in the distance. Kairos, of course, leading the way. We've also got a Lord of Change, a whole bunch of horrors of different types. Miao Ying going to transform and swing out, try and get after that iridescent horror. Makes sense. Yeah, we got the spawn moving in as well. Looks like a soul grinder. Basically, it's a TZEENTCH build, right? We've got some Forsaken mixed in there as well. This Dragon Vortex now going to reach up, start to drag down. Anyway. Drag down some of them. Flesh to Stone on those Jade Warriors in the front line to give them a little bit more armor. Physical resistance, which actually doesn't matter too much against TZEENTCH, interestingly enough. Most of the units deal magic damage, right? So we'll see how much that actually ends up helping. Looks like Lord of Change, or Kairos rather, just going to charge straight in there. The Doom Knights come in, they shut down one artillery unit, the Crane Gunners right away. The War Cart also, you see there, it does actually have the spellcasting abilities. Miao Ying absolutely dumpstering the Iridescent Horror on the Burning Chariot, as to be expected. Throws down a little heal there. Backline's definitely been compromised by the flying units, but there's also Knights out on the flanks as well, so the TZEENTCH rush definitely ongoing, but the crossbows are able to stand mostly firm for the time being. The horrors kind of standing off and shooting as the spawns and so forth get involved. Terror route on some of the Jade Warriors in the front line. They still have 100 models left though, so they should be back and continue fighting. The Compass is getting absolutely dumpstered in melee combat. Definitely seems like it's not so much of a melee unit per se, but it is definitely getting handled pretty hard there. The rest of the army seems to be holding up okay. Those Jade Warrior halberds out on the flanks there are getting eaten up by the Doom Knights, but they're actually probably trading very cost effectively, which is fine. Yeah, Exalted Flamer there. Ooh, gets a big old attack. That actually does a pretty good amount of damage to Miao Ying, but obviously once she gets down into melee, that will be just fine. One hit there, and doesn't quite break the barrier all the way, but another heal dropped in. TZEENTCH is going to be dropping his big old army ability from casting spells. Will do some friendly fire, but also just savages those halberds. One unit of Celestial Dragon Guards having a tough time. The other ones, though, are holding out quite well. As I mentioned in my previous CATHAY video, the Celestial Dragon Guard do seem to be exceptionally tanky, and again, balance is not final. In this specific build that these battles are played on, though, they do seem to be quite strong. So, and also a part of it is, you know, they're facing armies with a lot of big monsters, like ogres and demons of various types, so you would expect the halberds, elite halberds especially, to perform in those types of situations, and it does seem that they do. Some more missiles being thrown out there. One of them goes way out in the distance and lands, but TZEENTCH starting to run out of steam a little bit. Their forces are just not able to sustain this fight, although they have dished out an extreme amount of damage. They haven't been able to finish off any units, really. Haven't been able to truly shatter any units, but man, that Exalted Flamer used up almost all of its ammunition. Now, it'd be interesting to look at the damage values and see how much value it actually got back using up its ammunition. There's certainly juicy infantry blobs. Speaking of which, now the Vortex is going to be used on that blob of horrors there who are moving into combat. It's interesting to know, you know, whether it or TZEENTCH, if you want to just run into combat and try and fight CATHAY in melee, or if it's worth it to try and stand and shoot with CATHAY. You know, here the AI has a little bit of a tough job kind of attacking piecemeal, not really, you know, utilizing the magic and the ranged all at once to maybe try and pull CATHAY out of position, because, you know, if you can just stand and shoot with TZEENTCH versus CATHAY, or, you know, use like some of your flying units, for example, to kind of pick away at their flanks, try and get them out of position. The biggest thing, I think, with any faction fighting CATHAY will be to force those unfavorable engagements, try and pull units out of position so they don't get that yin-yang buff. A lot of their units also have, you know, defensive buffs from staying stationary, right? They're Jade Warriors of all types, I'm pretty sure, actually. I think the Celestial Dragon Guard do as well. So in general, you want to force CATHAY to move, right, as much as you can. And the AI, you know, obviously doesn't realize that in the same way that a human player can. So they're not really exploiting that to the best effect here. But it will be interesting to see, you know, once we get our hands on multiplayer, how that matchup ends up kind of playing out. But for the time being, things are looking pretty good. Again, I don't know the army values as well, whether these armies were actually picked at the same value, or maybe CATHAY spent slightly more on their army. But, I mean, battle, all things considered, pretty close. Like, in terms of campaign, you would have a lot of these units just, like, almost completely wiped. But, interestingly enough, none of them do get completely 100% wiped. And those look like they're going to be able to stabilize. The mortal units of TZEENTCH are all routing here. The demons are starting to hit instability, their leadership being too low. Sentinels have enough HP, they've been able to tank out quite well. Miao Ying's healing on them and on herself has also been pretty good. A few key Earth Bloods. You can see Miao Ying just eating some literal fire directly to the face there. She doesn't care too much, though. Going to throw down that buff and throw down another heal just to keep things fresh. Again, the healing is being reduced because of the flaming attacks on everything. You didn't see that from the little flame icon there at the bottom. But that should be it. The War Compass does actually get a Uranus Thunderbolt. And it does actually... Wow, that actually did some damage, you know? Maybe they upgraded the damage on Uranus Thunderbolt, because right now it's pretty pitiful. It's, you know, barely worth casting, only in a few niche situations to try and, like, detonate an artillery piece or something. But Soul Grinder, Exalted Flamer both going down here. Miao Ying and the Sentinel, very cool. That will be victory for CATHAY. And who's surprised? Definitely not me, but a fun battle nonetheless. Looks great. I mean, what more can I say? This game I'm very excited for. I know a lot of you guys have commented like, I just want to get my hands on the game already, and I definitely agree. I couldn't agree more, so definitely going to be a lot of fun. That's it for that battle. What else can I say? The War Compass does seem to be pretty squishy, but I think if you use it correctly, you know, with that casting ability, you could probably get some pretty good value from it. It'll be interesting to see, especially given that CATHAY gets that ability where your spell power gets juiced up, which, by the way, I didn't ever address this in my videos. Spell power actually does increase, like, the damage dealt of spells, or, yeah, the effects and everything. You can see that if you look in the tooltips of Cathayan armies, especially that have multiple casters, or like Kairos Fateweaver, for example, who has Greater Arcane Conduit, now increases spell power as well. Yeah, just straight up increases spell power. I don't know if the Wujing War Compass counts as another caster towards that sort of juicing up your spell power, but if that is the case, that would be great. I need to double check on that. Probably should have before this video, but hey, there you go. That's it for this particular one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time.